Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday to you all. We will begin this morning with our gathering song, 1040. Hush will sing verses 1, 2, 3, and 5. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? I'm so glad trouble don't last always. Trouble don't last always. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do?
Good morning. This is Rick Cousins standing in for Michelle Cousins, and I'd like to welcome you to the online service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. We're very glad that you were able to join us this morning, and together in community, we can ensure that social distancing does not mean social disengagement. Our weekly services are more than just a gathering of physical bodies. It is the forming of a sacred time that we make together. Whether you are well versed in the technology of teleconferencing or this is your first time, your first venture, we welcome you. For those of you new among us or reconnecting with fonder hearts, we invite you to introduce yourselves and where you are from, where you're connecting from in the chat box as you are comfortable. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, whatever your theological stance, whatever your heritage, whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. You can learn more about us on our website and our Facebook page. We encourage you to share our Facebook page and reach out to others who may be isolated at this time and may benefit from the spiritual connection with our loving community. Please note in the order of service, one of the topics this week will be on Thursday. There's a book conversations group. If you need more information, reach out to Marianne Kula. It's the Nature's Best Hope by Douglas Tallamy. It's a discussion group. Please feel free to join up with that. And a week from today will be the ordination of Sierra Marie Gerfeo, our Director of Religious Education. She'll be ordained by our congregation, and there will be a whole boatload of people there to support her. And what we'd like to do is have everybody join if they can. So please join us. The Zoom link and the invitation will be sent out after today's service. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It is so good to be with you all this morning. In the strange swirl of time we've all been in since last March, it feels grounding just to say we are here together in January 2021. January is always a betwixt and between time, but much more so this weekend as we approach the end of one presidential administration of this country and move into another. Let us move deeper into this hour together with great gratitude for having found ways to stay connected over these many months now. Let us cherish and protect this precious time and draw upon it, the music, the words, the silences, the kindness of faces and names known for a long time and always something new to us as well. Let us hold and lean into the interconnected web that holds us all. Come, let us join in co-creating this sacred time together. I now invite you to bring a chalice near. A simple candle and saucer will always do, a tea light or a taper, whatever you have nearby. And take a moment to light your chalice, to kindle this flame that reminds us always of the spark of life within each one of us and all around us. And then join me in this congregation's chalice lighting words. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life.
Good morning. It is good to be together. I don't know if I've been spotlighted yet, but hopefully we'll be in a minute because I don't think my face is popping up on the screen. Those of you, if there are children and youth in the room who are not near the screen, I want to invite you to come by now so that you can be with me for this morning's story. And while you're on your way over, let me tell you that during coffee hour, when everybody goes into breakout rooms, the religious education Zoom room will open for you, and we will have our coffee hour sharing circle. Our story reveal event has been postponed so that our stories can finish making their the travels that they were making by postal mail over the last couple of weeks. But in the meantime, if you have not built a fairy house on the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury grounds, you are most welcome to stop by anytime this week and work on building your fairy house and send me a treasure map so we can all find it later on. Please join with me in the unison affirmation, children's affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. Who here has ever watched Major League Baseball? Thumbs up, thumbs up. How about some other pro sports? Any other pro sports? So 2 of my favorite pro leagues are the WNBA and NWHL. The NWHL is about to have their bubble season in Lake Placid, New York. One of my favorite NWHL players is Madison Packer. She is a forward for the Metropolitan Riveters, and she's like the second top scorer in the league. She is so determined. She is so focused on the ice. She plays really aggressive, but she also plays smart. Some of my favorite Madison Packer moments are those times when I don't think anything is about to happen, and it seems like she just comes out of nowhere and pulls out a goal. And of course, she didn't come out of nowhere. She has actually been looking for that opportunity to strike and then cunningly made it happen. But to me, as someone who isn't a professional hockey player, that's what it looks like. It's almost like magic. And if you're a sports fan, you know that when you're watching that game and your favorite player does something that is just so good, it is such a thrill. It is so much fun. I've actually had the opportunity to meet Madison Packer. One really awesome thing about pro women's sports is that they really support their fans just as their fans support them. And they especially love their young fans. So when I was a manager of my kids' team, we had these raffle baskets that we would make for the end of the season banquet. And I wanted to make an NWHL basket for the raffle. So I reached out to Madison's wife, Anya, who used to play for the Connecticut Whale, but is now the executive director of the Players Association. And I asked Anya if she might have any NWHL memorabilia to donate, and she did. And after a little back and forth, she told me that she and Madison would come meet me at a Dunkin' Donuts off the highway at the midway point between where I live and where she and Madison live. And I got my kid and another kid from the team, and we packed into the car and we drove off to that Dunkin' Donuts just as excited as could be. And then there we were standing in front of the Dunkin' Donuts with 2 of our favorite people in the league, including one of our favorite players. And you know, it turns out Madison Packer off the ice is very quiet, a little shy maybe. So different than who she is on the ice. There's not just one story of what makes Madison Packer who she is, but at least a couple. If you are ever lucky enough to meet a couple of your favorite pro sports players, you might also be lucky enough to hear a little of how they think. And actually, it was Anya who shared the funniest thing. She asked the other player from my kids' team whether she makes a lot of goals for her team. And that player said that she had until she had had this injury and she needed to be off ice for a while for recovery. And then ever since getting back on the ice, she hadn't been getting goals. And Anya laughed and said, "Oh, did you try flushing your stick?" And we were like, "What? Is this a thing?" And Madison Packer said, "Nope, not a thing." But Anya told us that where she was from, whenever she went through a time when plays weren't going so well, they would say, "Gotta flush your stick, gotta go wash the you-know-what off your stick in the toilet." Now, sometimes when we see our favorite pro players struggle and we know they have to practice constantly, we think a little bit about what that struggle might mean. But the thing is, when we see our favorite pros, and not just in sports, but in all kinds of things, what we usually see mostly is their successes. We don't imagine them getting silly over their failures and flushing their sticks in the toilet. We read our favorite authors' best writing, the stuff that gets published. We admire the inventions that work for our favorite inventors. We see a famous painter's masterpieces or the ballets that have been practiced to near perfection. We hear songs that were considered good enough for recording. And sometimes we get it in our heads that all the stuff that we struggle with, that all the things we aren't able to do the way we want to, even on our 1,000th try, all the things that don't come easy for us, we get it in our heads that this is just us, and certainly never the people we admire. And that's one of the reasons that telling more than one story about the people we admire is important. Because some of the stories we tell about people we admire will have us getting it all twisted, have us thinking that their accomplishments are only about one or two special features of who they are. Take Rosa Parks, for example. I bet most of you have heard of Rosa Parks and how her refusal to give up her seat to a white man on a full bus got her arrested and started up the Montgomery bus boycott, which was a major event in the early part of the civil rights movements of the 50s and 60s. Some people credit her action as the start of the civil rights era, though that too is an oversimplification and not really accurate. But even a few years back, one of the most commonly told stories about Rosa Parks was that she was too tired after a long day of work as a seamstress to get back on her feet, and that she found the courage to stay sitting. And that one story can make a person think that to do something like Rosa Parks, you have to have a well of courage that can come up almost as if from nowhere. Now, of course, Rosa Parks was incredibly courageous, but there are other stories that when we tell them can help us remember that having some extraordinary courage isn't something we just have to have inside ourselves all by itself if we're going to fight for what's right in this world. It might help to know, for instance, that Rosa Parks wasn't the first to be arrested for doing what she did. There'd been a handful of girls and women before her who had questioned the same rules just as she did, and she knew that. In fact, she was working to help one of the girls who had been arrested for doing just that. But people who were leading the movement in Montgomery did not think that that particular case of that girl would help the cause, so that was handled more quietly. Rosa Parks was the secretary of the local chapter of the NAACP. She was involved in civil rights work already by the time this case happened. And she'd already had an incident where she'd been kicked off a bus by the same driver for refusing to get off and get back on using the back door. Now, it's true that Miss Parks did not plan to refuse to give up her seat and get arrested that fateful day. She even said that if she had realized who the driver was before she got on the bus, she wouldn't have gotten on. And it's true that she didn't give up her seat because she was tired, But it is true that she gave up her seat because she was tired, but it wasn't because her feet were tired. It was because she was tired of injustice in her spirit, and she decided she wasn't going to put up with it anymore. And we tell this fuller story partly so we can remember that Rosa Parks wasn't just an ordinary person who did something extraordinary one day because she had some mysterious well of courage or just the right amount of exhaustion to do it. Everything she had already been doing was informing her actions, was pushing her and preparing her to make that next movement into her own civil rights work. She was supported by community, and she knew exactly what the meaning of her actions might be. When we look at Rosa Parks, not just like a very special figure written about in books, but as the real and fully human person she was, it is easier to remember that we too have communities of people supporting us and ways we are getting ready, training and preparing for what comes next. And right now we live in the same kind of history, the history in which important things must be done in the interest of justice and civil rights. We live in a history that calls on us for action. The question need not be whether we are good enough or have a deep enough well of courage. Instead, we might ask, who are the communities supporting us? What have we been preparing for? What big or small thing is calling at us as the next thing to do? And that is the end of the story for this morning.
Thank you so much, Sarah Marie. I love getting introduced to new women athletes out there in the world. I'll have to look up their names more after this service. Now is the time for sharing what might be weighing down or lifting up your heart this morning, particularly those personal concerns and milestones that others here might not be aware of if you do not share that news or update with us here. What changes are going on in your and your loved ones' lives that we might hold together in love?
Is now the time in our service for our congregational offering. If you are a guest with us this morning, then please pass the plate. Your presence with us this morning is your gift to us. Members, you can share your offering by clicking the link that is posted in the chat, or you can send a check to UUCD at 24 Clapboard Ridge Road, and all the information is on the screen. Thank you so much for doing your part to support and sustain this community we love. And now if everyone would please join me in our congregational response. In the spirit of compassion and service, we dedicate these, our offerings.
Dear UUCDers, I want to thank you for your thoughtfulness, engagement, and trust these past tumultuous weeks in our country. Since the Christmas Eve service, which Sierra Marie and I led, you have heard from 3 guest speakers, Reverend Kimberly DeBoos, Reverend Christina Spad, and singer-songwriter David Roth this past Sunday. Some of us gathered together on Friday evening, January 8th, to process and share our feelings about the insurrection at the United States Capitol on January 6th. We have shared by email and Facebook the statement from our Unitarian Universalist Association denouncing complicity with extremists and calling for courageous action by national leaders. We and you all together have carried on with the day-to-day programs and work of co-creating this multi-generational religious community together. I commend and appreciate all of you for your engagement and support of this congregation during this difficult COVID winter, and for the many ways you also call upon the congregation for your own soul support, grounding, understanding, and solidarity. At the center of UUCD's mission statement is the commitment to offer comfort and care in times of need, and to work with others to create a just society and a sustainable earth. I continually feel and observe this community's collective commitment to live out this mission, even as our ways of doing so continually evolve or are forced to adapt. Here we are now at Martin Luther King Jr. weekend 2021. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is a federal holiday that was signed into law by President Ronald Reagan in 1983, but was not observed by all 50 US states until 2000. Random factoid: South Carolina was the last state to recognize MLK Day as a paid holiday for all state employees. Before that May 2000 state of South Carolina bill, employees could choose between celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day or one of 3 Confederate holidays. No kidding. Some of you will remember how much I typically enjoy sharing stories from the well-documented life and struggles of Martin Luther King. Last January at this time, I led our service on MLK's early years in parish ministry, being called upon to lead the Montgomery bus boycott well before he was known beyond Alabama as a leader. In January of 2019, this MLK Sunday service was canceled due to the weather. In particular, the high chance of freezing rain falling during the service time and making it dangerous for people driving home from church. I remember well the phone conversation that then board president Brad Green and I had, weighing the disappointment of canceling with the safety risk of carrying on with the service. We chose to cancel, and I remember wishing at the time that there were some way to still connect with people while allowing you to stay cozy in the safety of your homes. That longing seems both quaint and ironic now, doesn't it? It makes me laugh. So this year, I was hoping to once again have the chance to focus in on a particular aspect of MLK's complex life. This year, I've been thinking more about his last year of life and how he was clearly becoming more precise and some would say radical in his writing and thinking about the intersection and institutionalization of oppressions. I've been reading and thinking about MLK and Malcolm X and how polarized their approaches to civil rights work were, again, long before that word polarized was common parlance as it is today. They were polarized by the media as being one way and the other way, and very much opposite perspectives on civil rights, far more than they actually were in their specific thinking. In fact, both MLK and Malcolm X evolved quite a bit in their thinking, even though neither of them made it into their 40s. Although Malcolm X criticized MLK, he also met privately with Coretta Scott King in February 1965, writes journalist Barbara Maranzani, stating his desire to work more closely with the nonviolent movement. Did Malcolm's attacks on King serve a purpose? She asks in her column about the tension between them. Did Malcolm's attacks on King serve a purpose, drawing the attention of white Americans towards his more radical beliefs and approach, making King and his more moderate positions a more acceptable alternative? Again, centering the white perspective as the one that people were most focused on trying to direct and manage and achieve acceptability with. Quite possibly, the polarization might have made King's approach seem more acceptable. But even beyond understanding their individual journeys better, or the power dynamics of the time that continue to play out today, there is more wisdom for us to digest by zooming out further and asking, why did so much of the civil rights era get centered on these 2 men and only a handful of others? What is the danger of a single story, as Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie terms this tendency in her awesome TED Talk, in how we relate to movements for change? I am certain I have mentioned this TED Talk before, so I'm not going to go into great detail about it today, but it's like sacred text to me. I am continually thinking about the points she makes in here, also about the danger of stereotyping and the truth that is in stereotypes, and how stereotypes don't tell enough of the story, but there is some truth in them. They just hone things into a single story. I recommend that TED Talk. I've put the link in the chat. Right now, at this very moment, this very week, this very month, we are in the midst of new movements for justice in this country. We are witnessing movement. How are we already telling the stories of this time? How might we emphasize this as a leaderful movement, a time wherein we ourselves are involved and engaged and not just witnessing? I invite you to keep this question in your hearts and minds with me for the next 30 days. 30 days, because there is a beautiful structure that our denomination has put into place to make it easier for us to engage in this reflection and action together for the next 30 days. Not just within our congregation, not just within the state of Connecticut or New York, but across the country and beyond with our faith family. 30 Days of Love is our annual Unitarian Universalist celebration that runs from Martin Luther King Jr. Day in January through Valentine's Day in February. It is an opportunity to lift up the ways Unitarian Universalists and many of our partner organizations are building and organizing by taking bold, courageous action for intersectional racial justice. And Margaret, thank you, Margaret, has posted the 30 Days of Love 2021 website. So whenever you're thinking that you need some inspiration or a good reading or an activity or something to do with your kids or grandkids, you could certainly share this website with grandchildren and do, there's an amazing Black Lives Matter coloring book that they've put up there with individual pages, and you can go through and print out a page and you could do a coloring sheet with your grandkids, even on the other side of the country. So whatever works for you, take advantage of the resources that have been compiled there. Join me and many of our faith siblings these next 30 days in going deeper in our thinking, broadening our connections and relationships, trying out new ways of taking action, of caring, of learning as we act, and acting as we continue to learn. I've been finding it helpful for months now, at night when I'm having trouble falling asleep, to repeat names like a mantra. And I share that with you today because some of these names should roll off our tongues by now, but don't yet. This is a leaderful movement. Longtime organizers and co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, Patrisse Cullors, Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi, and I put quotes in the order of service from Alicia Garza's great new book just out. It's The Purpose of Power, How We Come Together When We Fall Apart. I highly recommend it. There's so much in it for those of you who want to review the past 20 years of how we got here, to some of the polarization we're witnessing now, to how we can strategically work together and not have movements be just focused on individuals. So Patrisse, Alicia Garza, and Opal Tometi have been very deliberate in trying to not let Black Lives Matter become just about any one of them or even the three of them. That is very much a part of their ongoing effort. This is a leaderful movement. Founders and leaders of the Movement for Black Lives Electoral Justice Voter Fund, Jessica Bird, Rukia Lumumba, Kayla Reed. This is a leaderful movement. United We Dream co-founder Cristina Jimenez Moreta and newly hired United We Dream executive director Grisa Martinez Rosas, self-proclaimed as undocumented, queer, and unafraid. United We Dream Action is the leading national network fighting for dignity and justice, led by immigrant youth and allies. This is a leaderful movement. Seed the Vote and Generation Rising, a partnership between the Center for Empowered Politics and Everyday People, building the electoral organizing power of young people of color. This is a leaderful movement. Transformational change is going to be led by generational change, observes Yale professor Daniel Esty. Greta Thunberg, Sunrise Movement, the 21 youth plaintiffs of Juliana versus the United States, who one journalist described as young people suing to stop the state-sanctioned degradation of their futures. This is a leaderful movement, even just within our relatively small denomination of Unitarian Universalism. The cast of UU leaders that Sierra Marie has assembled for her ordination next Sunday afternoon will more than just impress you. I'm confident that each of you who make the effort to attend this very special service, 4 o'clock next Sunday, will be deeply moved to experience the wisdom of those who are reshaping and strengthening Unitarian Universalism from the inside out. Our faith is deepening into our commitment to racial justice and inclusivity of all kinds, and to really doing the difficult work that commitment entails. Reverend Teresa Inez Soto, who will be delivering the sermon for Sierra Marie's ordination, writes in their beautiful book of meditations, Spilling the Light. This is just an excerpt. Everything is still on fire, but all is not lost. Hard is not impossible. Not yet is different than never. You in community have an answer. You have a system. You have a response to systems of power and control, and to the cost of suffering. You and your community together are the answer. You know both where you fall short and where you flourish, and where you're still reaching. You remain more unshakable than swayed by the latest rage. You are here to put out the ravenous flames and heal the world. May we together make it so. Join me in soaking in now this beautiful song and visual reflection made especially for this weekend by singer-songwriter Leah Morris, who I hope you are recognizing or will recognize shortly as one among several musicians who has been working with Unitarian Universalist leaders to create widely shareable music for precisely these times. This piece begins with a recording of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speaking, and then Leah Morris will start singing.
Morally, I was led to nonviolence because I felt that it was the best moral way to deal with the problem. We were seeking to establish a just society, and it was my feeling then, and it is my feeling now, that violence is certainly much more socially destructive, and it creates many more social problems than it solves. So I was led to nonviolence for deep moral reasons. And I turned to it because I felt that it was the morally excellent way to deal with the problem of racial injustice in our country.
There is no freedom, the wise man said, let justice roll down when the poor cry out for shelter and bread. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary? Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Hatred will never drive out hate. Let love roll down, roll down. Remember, our hearts can make us great. Let love roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together. together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. And let your love roll down like a mighty stream. When brutality threatens our daughters and sons, let peace roll down, roll down. May our voices rise up louder than the guns. Let peace roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. And let peace roll down like a mighty stream. Step by step, one by one, let justice roll down, roll down. They can kill the prophet, but the dream lives on. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. And let justice roll down like a mighty stream.
I turned to it because I felt that it was the morally excellent way to deal with the problem of racial injustice in our country.
Here I am. I am trying something new with my screens today. Thank you for your patience. Oh, dear ones, at this moment in our service today, take a deep breath and soak all that we have shared so far into your spirit and this time that we've created together. I love looking out at your faces and the gallery view and just seeing each of us here together that make this space together. It is good to be alive now, right now, in this unprecedented, pivotal, historic time, to be witnessing to one another, to be in this together, to be holding one another, if not with our physical arms, then with our eyes and our words and our full hearts as we move together into the next unpredictable moment. Let yourself be changed. Celebrate that you are not who you were a year ago. You too are a leader amidst this leaderful movement, a leader in your ways and your contexts. May your journey and your efforts be blessed, and may our shared world shine with the beauty you long to bring to it. May it be so. Join me in a few deep breaths of silence now, and then we will all sing together with Jerry, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
is the time in our service to extinguish our chalices. So if you could take up your chalice and join me in our shared declaration. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Our closing hymn today is number 1019, Everything is Possible.
We've cleared off the table, leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I've told you a story, tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sail to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. Oh, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know that I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. There are girls who grow up strong and bold, there are boys quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind, some go in their own way in time. Some women love women, some men love men, some raise children, some never do. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they'll give the same back to you. Oh, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know that I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. The only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. This song of Fred Small that I think some sing as a lullaby. I know a colleague who sings it as a lullaby to his children. Just seemed like the right song for me going into whatever the next week and month holds. The limitations of our own one precious life have never been more on our minds as during these seemingly endless days of pandemic life. But there is still so much you can do. You can learn, you can reach out. You might be able to send your financial or emotional support. You can revisit your own reactions and assumptions. You can plan ahead for what actions you can and will take in this year ahead. Let yourself be moved and stretched into everything that is possible for you. Commit to begin over and over again in love. The postlude today draws upon words from MLK's last public speech before he was killed. Soak in this music and this wisdom, knowing that there are many, many leaders who have carried on in his legacy and in the work that is needed now. Following the postlude and fellowship time, go in peace out into this fragile, resilient world and take actions that are blessings for this earth and for one another.
I went up to the mountain because you asked me to. Up over the clouds to where the sky was blue. I could see all around me, everywhere. I could see all around me. Everywhere. Sometimes I feel like I've never been nothing but tired, and I'll be walking to the day I expire. Sometimes I lay down, no more can I do. But then I go on again, because you ask me to. Some days I look down, afraid I will fall. And though the sun shines, I see nothing at all. And then I hear your sweet voice, come and then go, come and then go, telling me softly you love me so. The peaceful valley just over that mountain, the peaceful valley. If you come to know, I may never get there, ever in this lifetime, but sooner or later is there I will go. Sooner or later, it's there I will go. it's there I will go.